If you're watching this video, you're part of a social enterprise or organisation focusing on innovative digital solutions. You're not just interested in commercial success, you want to make a difference in society too. When you apply for funding, a key aspect of your application will be explaining how you intend to achieve social impact. That's where one critical document comes in: the roadmap. In this video, we'll explain what a roadmap is, why it's an important tool for you, and provide step-by-step instructions for creating a roadmap to fit your project or organisational goals. Let's get started. What is a roadmap? A roadmap, also known as a theory of change, is essentially a summary of what your funded project will do and how it will generate change. It outlines the existing problems your work aims to tackle, the activities you propose to address these problems, and how those activities will lead to short, medium, and long-term changes that ultimately achieve your social impact goals. Why is a roadmap an important tool for startups? Well, it not only helps you summarise the social impact you intend to achieve, but it also serves as a logic test, helping you figure out if your inputs or actions are sufficient to result in the change you are hoping to create. A roadmap can be used for a specific project, like a new pilot for which you are seeking funding, or for the wider goals of your entire organisation. When applying for funding from impact investors, international donors, and grant funds, the roadmap is a key tool for explaining your organisation's concept and its value to society. How to build a roadmap, step by step. When it comes to building your roadmap, there are 6 key steps to carry out. Step 1 is defining the overall impact or long-term goals of your project. To do this, you and your team need to answer this question: what is the long-term change that your organisation is working to create? And you need to think big picture, something along the lines of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, such as improving health, reducing inequalities, or tackling climate change, rather than focusing on your organisation's commercial goals. Your long-term goals should be focused on social impact, meaning they generate positive change for individuals or communities. Long-term goals may also include environmental or governmental impact. Let's say you start a business in waste management. You have an idea for a new service your business could offer that would reduce the amount of waste in landfills. You apply for funding to pilot this initiative, and as part of the application, need to submit a roadmap. Start by jotting down your long-term goals in one or more short bullet points. In this example, your goal could be reducing the amount of recyclable material sent to landfills to promote a circular economy and low-carbon society in your country. Step 2 is looking at the core problems you are trying to address. Addressing these problems through your project lays the foundation for achieving your long-term goals. For this step, your team will first need to discuss all the reasons why your solution is necessary. In the example, you would discuss with your team why the amount of recyclable landfill waste is increasing. You will soon realise that there are many problems behind every long-term goal, and your project won't address them all. It's best to only focus on the problems that are relevant to your project, listing one problem per box. You can create and remove boxes as needed, but we suggest 4 boxes per column, so stay focused on information that's key to your project. When it comes to reducing waste in landfills, some of the problems could be that many households in country A are not incentivised to recycle, so they send all of their household waste to landfills. Recyclable material from households is often contaminated by food waste because it is not sorted from compost and therefore has little value to recyclers. And recycling companies don't receive enough recyclables from households to justify collecting from them, so they focus on businesses instead. Next, you'll move on to step 3, which is listing all the activities you plan to do with the funding you are applying for. These are not goals, but rather the steps your business will take to start bringing about change. You can group them into 3 or 4 key activities, grouped by the type of impact they will create. For example, if your funds will be used to make multiple improvements to an existing waste recycling app and offer training sessions and workshops to users, you can group these into 2 activities. 1. Making improvements to the app, and 2. Providing training and workshops to users. It's important to remember that your roadmap is all about social, environmental, or governmental impact, and not commercial growth. So your activities should focus on what needs to happen to drive impact, not generate revenue or expansion. You also need to keep in mind that your activities and the outputs and outcomes that will follow are potential key performance indicators, KPIs, and milestones, so they must be measurable and flow logically. In the waste example, activities could be to launch an app for households to earn incentives when they sort recyclables and compost from household waste, run a marketing campaign to bring new households on board, employ and train a team of waste collectors to pick up from households, and identify businesses interested in buying compost and recyclable material. For each box, it helps to ask yourself, how can this be measured? And does this lead to my ultimate goal? Step 4 looks at the short-term results or outputs you should expect within 6 to 12 months of implementation, based on the activities you listed. All outputs should be linked to at least one activity to ensure the roadmap follows a logical progression from start to finish. If an activity doesn't lead to any output, it's likely that it doesn't belong on the roadmap. To identify outputs, your team needs to answer this question: what will happen in the short term that is necessary for our long-term goals to occur? Remember that social impact is about creating positive change for individuals or communities. So it's helpful to focus outputs on how they impact your end users. In our waste management example, outputs could be that individuals from households sign up for the app, households separate compost from recyclable material and earn incentives, clean recyclables and compost are collected from households, and compost and recyclables are sold to recycling businesses. After developing key outputs, you can move to Step 5, which looks at the measurable results or outcomes after 12 to 18 months of implementation. To get there, ask yourself, what kind of measurable behaviour change and impact can we expect? And how will this relate to our outputs? It's important to make sure that this impact will be measurable during the funded project. In the waste example, outcomes could be that households become a significant source of clean recyclables, individuals in the community become more likely to recycle regularly, and more recyclable waste is diverted from landfills. Once all the columns are completed, review each section to ensure they flow together and have a logical cause-effect relationship. To do this, ask yourself, have we included all key activities for the project? Are the outputs likely to occur within 6 to 12 months of project implementation? Do these outputs really validate whether the activities were successful or not? Does at least one of our outputs focus on our end users? Do the outcomes actually support the long-term goals of the project? Can they be monitored and measured? Are there gaps between the outcomes and long-term goals, such as expected behaviour changes on the part of users? Do these outcomes prove the project is actually effective? Will they generate impact before the end of the project? Once you're happy with your roadmap, move on to Step 6, where you and your team will discuss all of the assumptions or preconditions that need to be in place for your project to successfully create social impact. Although they are largely out of your control, assumptions are key for any project. If you are selling a product, you have to assume that people will buy your product for any long-term outcomes and behaviour changes to occur. It's important to note down all necessary assumptions so they can be tested during project implementation. In the waste example, you have to assume households will have access to smartphones and mobile network connectivity or Wi-Fi to use the Recycling Incentives app. They will also have the necessary technical understanding of recycling to be able to sort their waste. Waste collectors will want to work for this company, and recycling businesses will benefit from increasing their supply of recyclables. Your roadmap is now complete. Remember, your roadmap is a key tool when you apply for funding. So, we encourage you to watch this video again, discuss each area with your team, and ensure you have everything you need to build an effective roadmap. In our next video, we will explore the role your roadmap will play if your project is funded.